Welcome, this is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stover. I'd like to apologize for starting off behind schedule. Tonight, however, is one night many Nigerians would be interested in. That's talking about the focus on tonight's program. Now, Nigeria has an installed capacity of 12,500 megawatts. That's of electricity, yet it generates less than 8,000 megawatts. Now, analysts attribute this fall to a number of factors, such as low capacity of the energy companies, estimated billing systems, outdated power equipment, inefficiency in power generation, transmission, distribution, and so many other issues, as well as sharp practices. It's believed that more than 50% of power is lost from the point of power generation in the country, but government has over time embarked on various reforms and power sector recovery implementation plans in getting the nation's power supply system right. Now, this, many believe, will help in the realization of the set target of achieving 20 megawatts. Well, and that's in just a couple of years from now, hopefully. But tonight, the focus of NTA Tuesday Live would be how to move the power sector to the next level and ensure steady power supply in the Nigerian nation that will drive industrialization. But first, let's get to see this report by Usman Aliu.
The sun shines, the water flows. And the winds are blowing. These are illustrations of abundant blessings of the nature, which has been so kind to Nigeria and could have been used for electricity generation. The 40-megawatt Kashimbla hydropower project in the northeast is just one of the successfully completed projects by the government in its determination to improve electricity supply for homes and industries. There are similar projects for the generation of power and transmission, in addition to commitments towards boosting the capacity of the distribution value chain. This manifested in the efforts to rid the sector from liability, hunting the sector before privatization. Therefore, government ensures that payment assurance guarantee of 701 billion naira for the gas suppliers to have confidence and remain in business succeed. But the desire is still far away from the high hopes and expectations. This is because majority of the people in Nigeria are craving for improvement in electricity supply to support economic and social development. That hope is not all lost because the transmission chain, for instance, which is evacuating and wheeling the power generated for distribution, has been reinventing itself for optimal service.
Here we have 12 circuits. We have 4 to Ogwaji. Ogwaji is in Enugu State. From power generated around here can be, as long as it enters the grid, goes to Ogwaji. From there to Makodi, through to Ajakuta, to Gwagwalada, and the rest of them. And here also we have 2 lines that are going to, it's 330 kV switching station. 2 to Odukpani. Odukpani is a generation station. So you can see that this place is like a hub of taking power that are generated around here into the grid. So this station is very important and is the second biggest 330 kV station in the country.
Rehabilitation and expansion work are being carried out side by side to improve performance of the existing lines, in addition to providing new ones to ensure supply improves in an efficient manner.
We lost transformer in Benin, we lost in Apo, we lost in Kano, we lost in Lagos. These are capital-intensive equipment, and we are not taking the right step. Just blame game. So the DISCOs, the TCN, they need to improve, or they need to do more of technical investment and stop the blame game.
History of electric power generation in Nigeria began 123 years ago in Lagos. The coming of Electricity Power Sector Reform Act 2005 and subsequent privatization in 2013 could have solved the problem surrounding the sector, but still nagging questions on supply, quality, and increased tariffs remain major issues in the sector.
Well, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests. We'd like to welcome Usman Gur Mohammed, is Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. He's also Chairman of the West African Power Pool. Welcome to NTA Tuesday.
Thank you, Cyril. Thank you.
All right. We are also joined tonight by Ozuemena Okechukwu Peter, a former Executive Director Generation of the National Electric Power Authority, NEPA. He's now a power generation consultant. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cyril. Thank you, Nigerians, too.
Okay. Let me also welcome to this program Dr. Vincent Dogo. He's a power sector consultant. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, viewers.
All right. And we're also joined tonight by Hashim Ibrahim Bakuri, a former Executive Director of Technical Services, JOS Distribution Company. Let's also just mention here that he was, at one point in time, AGM Commercial Services of the Abuja Distribution Company. And he happens to be the only independent member of the Stakeholders Advisory Panel of Nigeria Electricity Sector Industry on market rules. Thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening, Cyril. Good evening, Nigerians.
All right. As we always do, we acquaint you with the procedure of this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of them. However, as we always say every Tuesday, for those who will be phoning in tonight, at the appropriate time, do us a favor. When your call gets through, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. Just do us that favor. As soon as your call gets through, reduce the volume of your TV set. That way we'll avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through to the studio, you'll see your name appear on screen. Once you see your name on screen, it means your call is direct to the studio. So just go right ahead with your question or comment. Don't bother too much about the greetings. Just go straight to the point. Keep it short, straight to the point, so others can also get on the platform. Tonight promises to be interesting. It's all about power. So let's begin from the start of it. And we go to the MDCU of TCN as we ask this question that so many Nigerians have been asking. Yes, the unbundling of what we knew well, let's start from the days of ECN to NEPA to PHCN and then the unbundling. But Nigerians are asking, despite all these moves, power remains a major problem. What's wrong with the system?
Thank you, Cyril. You know, the unbundling of the power sector took place sometime in 2013, which led to the privatization of distribution companies and also the 6 generation companies. Transmission company was left in the hand of government, but it was also given out to Manitoba Hydro that managed the company for a period of 4 years. I came over from the African Development Bank as a result of the crisis that was created as a result of the management of Manitoba Hydro. That was how I came. Now, if you look at the privatization that we did, honestly, we did right thing wrongly. And that's why we are slow in achieving our target. Let me give you an example. I'm the chairman of West African Power Pool. Sometime last year, we took a decision to build the capacity of distribution companies across the value chain, that is across West Africa. We invited all West Africa distribution companies, and they came with their KPIs. Now, when they came with their KPIs, each one of them have to demonstrate their KPIs and show what they are doing. And the KPIs was very simple. What is the level of losses that they have in their network? It will interest you to know that 8 distribution companies in Nigeria participated. And for information also, the entire West Africa, none of the country has fully utilized their distribution companies except Nigeria. It will interest you to know that the Nigerian companies are the worst performing among the distribution companies in West Africa. Now, it's a universal principle. I came from private sector background since I worked in African Development Bank for 9 years. It's a universal principle that private sector are more efficient than public sector. So if the reverse is the case here, that shows that we have made certain mistakes which we need to fix. And that is the reason why we are working on several other things. For example, when we came, we realized that TCN, that is 2017, we realized that TCN was the weakest in the value chain. So we have to do something to up the game. Now, what we did was to launch the 20-year least cost transmission expansion plan, which I can tell you, Cyril, was the first time we had this kind of study that took place in Nigeria. On the basis of that 20-year least cost transmission expansion plan, we came up with the transmission rehabilitation expansion program. Now, for us to come up with this, we had to audit TCN and establish transparency, because donors will not have given us money if we don't audit TCN. And for information, when we came in 2017, for the 4.5 years that TCN was created at that time, TCN was not audited even once. So we have to audit the place. I can assure you that there are times that I sleep in the office to ensure we deliver the audit. We're able to deliver the audit, and we establish the transmission rehabilitation and expansion program. Now, that program has 4 important deliverables. One, we work on the frequency control, which was not usually a serious, Nigeria has never taken it very seriously. I can tell you we achieved frequency control of 49.5 and 50.5 Hz from May 2017 to November 2018.
What was the figure before this period?
No, we are not even managing the frequency. There was no management at all. Now, that means we work with the generation companies, and we achieve that target. Now, meaning all the generation companies, we ask them, they have to be on free governor, which was the requirement of the grid code. Now, from December 23rd to May 5, 2019, we achieved frequency control of 49.8 and 50.2 Hz, which is the standard of WAP, at 66%. Now, that tells you we are on the same level with Ghana. Okay. But from May 5 to date, we are struggling with what? 30% of that target. Why? Because immediately rain starts, we start having problem with the distribution network. Okay. Once it rains, the network collapses, and this is the problem.
Okay, so we'll come to that. It's something, because certainly at about this time it might be raining somewhere, and the next thing is the power is knocked off. But let's come to the power generation consultant here, Zoemina Kichukubita.
Thank you.
What has been the biggest challenge with our power supply chain?
Thank you, Cyril, and welcome Nigerians to this discussion. You talked about the evolution of the power sector, right from ECN through NEPA, PHCN to private businesses now. ECN was merely really isolated power generation systems that supplied power to localities, around them. But when Kanji Dam, was constructed and commissioned, it was merged with ECN, and then it became National Electric Power Authority, NEPA. And at that stage, more power plants began to come in. 2 other hydros came in, Jeba, Shiroro, and Kanji, as I said. Other thermal power plants came in, Lagos, which is thermal power plant at Ebwi, Sapele power plant, which is a thermal power plant too, Uweli power plant, thermal power plant, and the one at Afam. So there were 7 major power plants, had a total capacity of about 6,000 megawatts. They were all doing well until at a stage they began to collapse, because
averagely, each person should have been in an available scale of an average, say, 4.5 to 5 kVA rating of availability scale. Now, when you put that together across the 200 million, that leaves this country for us to even set the stage that electricity should begin to have minimal impact for the economy to pick up. This country requires close to about 20 to 25,000 megawatts before we can now scale from 0 to begin the growth of the electricity development scale. Now here we are at less than an average of 4,000 megawatts. It is a gross misnomer to see how impossible it is for the economy of this country, if at all, it has to have a meaningful direction to grow. Now, all around the world, economic growth of each nation today, by name, whether the developed world or those that were on the same scale level, the same reason why Nigeria was on the same scale level with the great Asian tigers today was one of the cardinal principles was based on our electricity per consumption capital rate then, along the early 70s. But today, when you look at the capital growth of these nations like Singapore, Malaysia, the first interpretation is to determine exactly how much available is electricity to them, how efficient is the dispatch of electricity available to these nations, and automatically the cluster strength of the industries that is sustained in those nations is vested and dependent on the electricity sector. So if at all this country, with its numerous challenges and problems, is to make a meaningful way forward, we have to pull our acts together and declare an emergency in the electricity sector. Until we fix it, this country will not make a headway.
Well, that's a very clear picture. So let's hear from you.
Well, the issues are multifaceted. Yes, we have a generation capacity of 12,000 megawatt, 8,000 megawatt available, but the operational capacity at a time T is around 4,500, 5,000 megawatt. Why is that so? The generators' deliverance or efficiency is a contributing factor. Availability of gas to the stations. The gas price itself that has been domiciled in dollars is a problem to the off-takers. The transmission grid itself still has some areas that needs firming up. There are issues to do with the grid stability. There are also issues at the distribution side of the, that is where the money comes in. Apart from the operational issues, the tariff issue is there, their performance to actually collect what they have received from the grid. There are transparency issues also with regards to payment timelines as the settlement system. The grid itself needs to be automated. All this blame game of not taking power by the discourse or rejecting power will be solved when the SCADA has been operationalized. Issues of contracts, the legal issues, contract operationalization, the market rules. These are things that have held the power sector from moving forward. The operators are talking of cost-reflective tariff. They are also talking about recovering their cost recovery, access to financing, capital financing from the banks or financial institutions. These are issues that needs to be looked at holistically. It's not a question of cherry-picking the problems and saying these are. There has to be a holistic approach to the sector so that we know where to fix and at what time, if we are to fix it in tandem, what will it cost and so on. There are also other issues on subsidy or no subsidy on the sector. If you compare it with what has happened or what is happening right now in the petroleum sector, how much is government subsidizing in the petroleum sector? If you look at the banking sector from 2009 to 2011, what has happened to the banking sector that it was bailed out from the crisis that it went into? If we want to get things right in the power sector, we have to tell ourselves the truth, come back to the drawing table as a nation and look at the issues holistically and solve the problem. If we just hit the problem that is you can generate whatever you want to generate, as long as it will go down the value chain with the losses that we have, with the collection or the present settlement system that is manual, the collector will remit what he wants to remit to the market. We need to automate the settlement system with an aggregator in the Nigerian banking system. Thank you.
All right. That a lot of people can accept, because to the average Nigerian, don't really want to know whether you're generating 1,000, 50,000 or whatever megawatts.
Sure.
As long as they don't
power.
turn on that switch,
yeah.
you turn that switch on in their homes and power doesn't come, it doesn't make much sense. But he talked about SCADA, and I'd like you to go straight to that and explain, because when he says the system has to be automated and that is not in place, what is stopping that from happening? And the SCADA, you'd explain that to us, what SCADA actually stands for and what role it has to do with the automation of the system and why we don't have that.
Thank you very much, Cyril. You know, I was explaining to you about our transmission, rehabilitation, and expansion program. Just like Engineer Bakoli said, for transmission, we have a holistic program on how to fix the grid and make the grid a stable grid. And that's why all the segments that are supposed to fix the grid and make it work, we are working on them. The four things we need to make the grid work, actually, apart from SCADA, three other things are: one, we need to have frequency under control, and I've told you the level of frequency that we have achieved. Engineer Ozebina, I want to tell you that I can confirm also to the viewers that all the generators in Nigeria now are frequency responsive.
Very good.
That is where we are now. So we have achieved that. Now we need to have a spinning reserve. I can also tell you that we have, for the first time, procured spinning reserve competitively. We procured 260 megawatt of spinning reserve. Now, 260 is not enough, but that is what we can get. But we believe that once we deploy the spinning reserve, then we'll be able to stabilize the grid more. And we believe that when we make it as first-line charge, it will incentivize the generators so that next time we advertise, we get more grid. Okay, now, the next thing is the SCADA that we are talking about. Right. Now, the SCADA that we are talking about is the third thing that we need to make the grid a modern grid. Now, it will interest you, Cyril, to know that in the past, we have signed 3 contracts for SCADA, and I'm sure Engineer Ozemina, who was my former boss, can confirm. And the 3 times we are not successful. Now,
okay,
when we came,
first, if we just explain what is SCADA actually.
SCADA is the supervisory control and data acquisition system.
Supervisory control and data
acquisition system. Yes,
fine,
and it works with energy management system, which we call EMS. But all these SCADA also work on what we call communication backbone. So when Bakwedi said smart grid means that from the National Control Center, you can see all the grid, and you can see all the people, the players, including the generators, the transmission line, the distribution network. All you will see them from the National Control Center. All the people that are connected to the grid. That's what is smart grid. Okay. Now, that smart grid will run on a communication backbone. And I can tell you that the 3 times we signed contracts, 3 times we are not successful. So when we came 2017, as part of a transmission rehabilitation and expansion program, we set up a committee, and the committee review, the QR for that committee was, what are the reasons why 3 times we tried to have SCADA and it was not successful? Now, the reasons that came up as the main reason why we are not successful in having automation of our system is that, one, we had a poor communication backbone. Then the second reason that came out was that the last contract was awarded without taking into account expansions that will come into the network. And that was why the expansion that came up with NIPP were not included in the SCADA. And unfortunately, the SCADA was not scalable. That was another problem. Now, the third problem that was discovered is that there are a lot of deficiencies in the control rooms. Now, Cyril, since that time, we took a decision to ensure that we put all those things that are problem in place so that we can launch a new SCADA. And what did we do? First of all, in the transmission rehabilitation and expansion program, we have raised $1.661 billion Part of this money are to rehabilitate existing substations, because several of those substations that we are seeing have aged equipment. Some of them have not been rehabilitated for a long time, so it's to rehabilitate them. Now, all the substations that we are rehabilitating, we are digitalizing the control room and we are automating the control room so that when we come to SCADA, the issue of deficiency will not be a problem. Now, the next thing we are doing, we did was that we launched the scoping of the SCADA. We employed a company called EDF. They did the scoping. When they did the scoping, they came up with a report. We decided to subject it to an international conference. We did it here last year in Hilton. And part of the finding of that international conference is that we have to fix the communication backbone. So it reinforced that position that we have, that the communication backbone was a problem. But unfortunately, our communication backbone was outsourced in 2006 to 2 companies. Now, the problem is that most people don't know. Every transmission line that you see, there's a fiber on it. And in fact, any new contract you sign on a transmission line, it's a must that you have to have fiber. That fiber is not for GSM. That fiber, the main objective is for the control and the management of the grid. Unfortunately, this concession did not work. It was outsourced in 2006, and this concession did not work. Now, these 2 concession companies are supposed to pay $40 million each as a concession fee. One paid $2 million, the other one paid 3.5. Now, the next thing is that they are supposed to, the contract provides that they are going to invest in the network and make sure that they fix the network in a way that we can be able to use it for our communication system and use half of it for their business. Now, anywhere that the fiber goes bad, it's not all places they fix. They only fix the places that they want to do their business. The rest of them, they don't fix it.
This outsourcing was in 2006.
Yes, so the contract has failed.
Yes, but if this has come to the light, what has happened to those companies?
So what we did when we came in 2017, and we called them and we sat down with them and said, this contract has failed because we are not having the communication to use to do our fiber, and you have refused to pay the money. So we look at the contract, and under the contract terms, it provided that if they don't pay, we can terminate. And we terminated the contracts. And after we terminated the contract, if you look at what we are doing now, is that after we terminated the contract, we have launched procurement of the key communication backbone that are missing. The evaluation is already taking place now. I think in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we are going to solve that problem. But as I tell you, our intention is that all the problems that we have that made us not to have been successful in the past, we have to fix it. Now, part of the problem also that we need to fix is the deficiencies in the control room. Now, those areas all those deficiencies will be fixed under the Transmission Rehabilitation Expansion Program. There are some substations we've also discovered that we are not touching them under the Transmission Rehabilitation. We have identified them. We are tendering the automation of those substations separately. So this is what we are doing. We have also engaged a consultant to do the design of the control room building. Now, what we want to do is that we have to sign the control room building to ensure that we have, when equipment comes, there is where we're going to keep them. Now, the next thing we are doing is that we want to send our staff to training, because we have to train those staff. In fact, we are assuming zero knowledge. That is what we are assuming, Engineer Ozemina. We are assuming zero knowledge. Yeah. In fact, tomorrow, the meeting I'm going to have is that I'm going to have a meeting with some experts from ESCOM on an exchange program where we're going to send our staff, maybe about 20 of them, to go and look at the automation system and work there in South Africa, maybe for a period of 3 months or 4 months, so that they learn it. So, Cyril, all the steps that we are doing, we are taking to make that we automate the system, we are doing it. And let me tell you, there is no choice. We have to automate the system, because if we don't automate the system, then we have a problem, because we are the chairman of West African Power Pool. All small countries like Togo, like Benin, like Ghana, they have automated system. We cannot synchronize with them. When we don't have SCADA, it's a big problem. So we have to fix it.
Let me take this to Zwemina and say, look, the issue of capacity is thrown up all the time. And this is a surprise to many Nigerians that this sector that has evolved over the years still cannot boast of adequate capacity at this time. What happened along the line?
Yeah. The truth is, we have a lot of gas in Nigeria, and the attraction is that since the gas is there and can be used for power generation, we should have gas power plants.
Okay.
That is quite good, but it's not really the best. The gas in Nigeria is located within the Delta region. Let me say the south-south, to some extent southeast region. And when you have power plants located close to the gas supply itself, you have preponderance of power within one locality. And for you to transmit that power to distant places, you lose good quantity of power. There's loss on the line. And if there is any disturbance at all, if any major power plant, fails, collapses, it carries the whole system with it, because the grid, more or less, of the power plants is within one location. But if you have the power plants staggered all over the country, for instance, the collapse will be very minimal indeed, and the voltage will be much better all around the country. So the idea of having so many gas power plants is good, because the gas is there, but it is not really the best. You see, we have overlooked other modes of power generation that could have helped us a lot. Renewable energy, which includes water, solar, wind, biomass, and all that. These are areas that if we really generate power from, we can do that from different locations of the country, and then stabilize the grid by locating the power plants, at, staggered places, quite distant from one another, to sustain the grid, So I think the problem is, even though the power plants are there, it's been mentioned here, the gas is not readily available. Even if you have all the funds now, and you ask a gas company, any of these gas companies to give you gas, Shell, Ajip, and all that, it will take them not less than 3 good years. Even if you give them all the money, 100%, it will take them not less than 3 years to do the aggregation of gas and send to you. So I think we need to really go into solar, wind, hydro, to sustain the system. Otherwise, we are really putting all our eggs in one basket.
Okay. Well, speaking about hydro, ironically, it's power generated from water driving turbines. Yes. But again, there's a joke, Dr. Dugu, it's all over the place, that Nigeria's power supply system is allergic to water. Meaning, the minute you find rain clouds there, power goes off. What could be the reason for that? You're a consultant in this system.
All right. Talking about once the clouds are gathering, suddenly when you are watching TV in your house, then the light simply goes off. Actually, Nigerians can predict rainfall without looking at the clouds these days. All you need is to sit in your house, and once you hear your window creaking and the lights goes off, you know surely the rain is already falling. In fact, you can predict how long the rain can fall. Anyway, that shouldn't be the case. I think either there is a deliberate attempt here that within the value chain, we have addressed that matters must be addressed holistically. If one part of this value chain is not delivering at its best or average or optimal, then whether you make efforts in generation, you make efforts to fix the transmission, then this will amount to zero. Honestly, I think there must be an interface principle or methodology, a kind of monitoring mechanism to ensure that each part player plays its role. But in this quest, honestly, the distribution companies have not done much. Judging from the way they distribute this power to available customers, the technical losses are surmounting, and nothing is being done. I don't think since privatization, any effort has been done primarily by these distribution companies to fix the problem. And I think government needs a deliberate policy directives on how to improve on that.
But you do have a regulatory body. And by the way, we should just mention there that we had also asked that the Electricity Regulation Commission We had also asked them to come on this program. We hope they might just make it before we round off. So you do have a regulatory body, and where companies are not performing, why are they getting away with it?
Well, there are KPIs the regulator put in place to monitor performance. Monthly, they file their reports on their operations. However, what the customer wants to see, as you said, is reality. Once the distribution licensee does not maintain his lines, maybe trace clearing or the waste itself and the pole supports, we will continue to have problem of line stripping. And if it is spontaneous, for example, in a large area, in most cases it pulls down the grid.
So any distortion or any problem to just one part of it is capable of...
It's already a weak,
okay,
and I will say obsolete network.
All right. Well, the phone lines are open. We'll return to you in just a moment. Do we have our first caller on this program tonight? All right. We have Kenneth calling in. Oh, well, we've lost that call, I do understand. But just, I know on a night like this, the calls will just be coming through. Okay? Now we have Ada calling in from Jos. Hello. Ada from Jos, are you with us? Oh, well, challenges with the phone system, just like challenges with the power system. So we hope we'll fix that. But then these companies, everyone had thought that once the discos had been privatized, and like the MD said, it's always been said that the private sector can and has the capacity to perform better. But Nigerians are asking. In fact, some Nigerians say, look, it was even better before privatization than it is now.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, you can say that, but depends if you have done a study on that or not. When the new investors took over, I'm not vouching for them, yes, because they need to be here and they were invited, maybe they didn't come. There were things that they are supposed to have done, and there were things the regulator is supposed to have done with respect to tariff, for them with respect to investment. However, they have been, will I say, carried away to payments of takeover loans instead of investing. They have been carried away on looking for reflective tariff, which they have been hammering right from takeover to debt, while their performance with respect to collection has not gone beyond what the former government workers were collecting. Also, their corporate governance with respect to transparency of operations. If you collect, for example, 10 naira, and the market has given you 3 naira as your own portion of the collection, you are supposed to remit back 7 naira to the value chain, up to the gas man. And you didn't do that, you are holding on to 5 naira. Then you send 5 naira for the others. Certainly you are bringing distortion in the market. The gas man will restrict gas supply to the generators. That is one of the fundamental problems. They also have issues to do with access to capital. Because their books are not, enticing to the banks, nobody is willing or ready to give loan to them for expansion. These are issues that I said are multifaceted and have to study it holistically.
I don't know if I can say something about this, because I had the opportunity of working with CPCS of Canada, who was a transaction advisor over the privatization I did the audit of all the power plants in Nigeria for CPCS, based on which the power plants were assessed for sale. And I want to let you know some of the defects in the privatization process. You see, the method adopted, for the privatization, to me, it wasn't actually the best way it would have been done. These distribution companies and even generation companies had little time to see the facilities they were to buy. Little time indeed. They had about 3 hours in a hotel where the line diagrams of each, as they are today, each disco, the whole disco, the line diagram was placed in a hotel. Either in Enugu or Abuja or somewhere, whichever you're interested in, you go there and look at those line diagrams for 3 hours, and you go. So what most of them did was to take photographs of those line diagrams because there was no time for them really to study it. Took it away, whatever they could get from it, I don't know. And many of them too believe that, there was so much money. Right. So they believed they were going to collect much money too. But they didn't reckon with the investment they ought to make, they would make, to make such money. They didn't. Unfortunately...
What about the competencies of those companies?
I'm coming to that. There are standards set by government for them, for quality and quantity of staff. Like he said, there were KPIs also set out. This metering, for instance, some of them won their own discos because of the timeline they gave to improve the system, to remove the problems in the system. This metering, some of them said within 2-3 years, they would have metered the whole network within their disco.
And today, metering is a big issue.
I'm sure even 30% not metered.
Right.
So the process really was not total in a way for both government and the interested companies to go through the full hog and know what was involved. So they took it over really without understanding because they were hopeful they were going to make money. But they didn't know they were going to spend good money too,
So the competencies of those companies, and Nigerians have spoken about this and said, look, there are many who would tell you they don't believe that all those companies that, bought what was unbundled, they don't believe they had the requisite competencies to do them.
Frankly speaking, Cyril, talking about the competence, I personally doubt whether the current owners of the discourse did, up initial, had the requisite competency. Don't forget that up initial, from the EPSR Act, there were there were dimensions that were well clarified that set the criteria for this privatization. And there were indications or indices to which each company that was to participate should at least possess certain level of competency. But when we began the roadshow, some of us within the system then drew the attention of the government, because I remember vividly I was part of the team. I was called to be part of the CSP of CPSCS advisors. And I told the minister then that I have never seen in the whole world how you can go to sell an asset that you don't know the value about. It was at the advent on that hurriedly an evaluation was put together. So how did the government come about evaluating the distribution companies they had on ground? This is a question that needs to be answered. Secondly, the people that participated, the criteria were lowered. And eventually what we ended up with are people that do not, I will repeat, the current owners of the discourse do not possess the technical competency. Otherwise, up initial, they would have known the magnitude of what was on ground.
MD.
Thank you, Cyril. I think it's a chicken and egg thing because if you look at what is happening you will see that there's also some aspect of action that government is supposed to do. You know, for a business to be run in a regulated environment like this, there are so many things that need to take place.
Oh, okay.
You need to have a regulatory, certainty.
All right.
You have to have a regulatory certainty, means they have to have cost-reflective tariff,
Okay.
which is supposed to be the driver of how they will raise their capital. But just like the people who are actually participated in the privatization, I cannot question them because they work with the company that actually did the privatization. But I can tell you from transmission point of view, as I said, the value chain, you see the value chain is like this. If this transmission doesn't perform, it bankrupts distribution and generation. If generation doesn't perform, the distribution company and transmission are bankrupt. That is how it is. If the distribution company doesn't collect the money, no other gets money. So this is how it is. So as we are focusing on transmission rehabilitation expansion program, as I said, as at now, I'm not saying we have fixed all the problem in transmission, but we have raised enough money to put N-1 across the country. All the lines that are radial, we are fixing it. All the places where we have weakness like Alauji, Uweri, Ihala, Onitsha line, Kano, Kaduna, Shiroro, Kaduna, all those lines we are fixing them. We are fixing them. It's a matter of timeline. Now, look at the problem, Cyril. When we did this simulation, we also simulated the investment requirement of the discourse. Because as at now, out of the 737 interfaces we have the discourse, only 421 have full protection. Yes. The remaining 317, you have 177 where lines are radiated directly from TCN switchyard. That means our 33 kV lines, our 33 kV breaker is the primary breaker to supply 415 customers for 177 feeders across the country. Now, you have also a situation where 139 are a breach of this injection substation and there's none. NEMSA came up with a report recently and said that they have banned the use of 33 kV to supply 415 customers. But how do you enforce the ban? You cannot enforce the ban if we don't have money to fix those problems. Now, we simulated the grid, the investment requirement of the discourse, and we have come up with $4.3 billion. That is investment requirement of the whole discourse.
Okay, we'll ask you to pause there. $4.3 billion. We'll ask you to pause. We'll return to you and see how that money can be put into this. But we do have a caller who's been waiting on the line for quite a while. Kene, is he still there? Hello? Is Kene still there?
Good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'll have to appreciate you so much for the program of this kind. And this has been a problem in Nigeria for quite a long time now. And you see, privatization, when it came to Nigeria, we discovered that that is the total failure in the power sector, where the power sector has been given to some recycled politicians to manage power. Syria, I want to tell you something here straight away that in Nigeria, for instance, individuals cannot manage power where we have a population of about 200 million and where politics has been playing in every sector, in everything. It's quite unfortunate. We have a diluted leadership right from time for when democracy returned in Nigeria in 1999. President Olusegun Obasanjo then, they have the privilege of putting these things in the right perspective. The National Assembly, people who were chairing those committees, and some individuals who were in charge, who were supposed to put the power sector in the right perspective, they have failed us. Look at what we're going through today. Estimated billions across the country. You pay for what you don't consume. It's quite unfortunate. We talk about these things every day. I appreciate you so much for bringing this topic up. We talk, and then over the radios, televisions, in newspapers, but nothing seems to be changing. What are we supposed to do? If you ask me today as a Nigerian, we're not even supposed to bring people outside. But I want to tell you that the best people that can manage power supply in the country, they are foreigners. If you can bring in Chinese people here, give them time, I promise you, I think you're going to have the best of it all. But every day, we bring in people, the same people that bought this from the government, they're the same people who are in the government controlling this. They have a target. Maybe a particular distribution unit has been given a set of about 50 million naira. And then themselves go about trying to meet up with that 50 million naira, but trying to add up something about what they are going to have in their pocket. I want to tell you something here in Makudi where I reside. It is worse. Some of the 33 kV line has passed here. People are not using it. But they've been charging us. We use power. I mean, we pay for power for what we don't even consume. This is really, really bad. I challenge the federal government and I challenge whoever, people who are in charge of these units, that they should sit up to the task. If they want to help Nigeria, let them change their attitude. Let them do what is right. We are going down through, today, economically, it's because of the failure of power supply in the country. Some other neighboring countries who have actually power supply from Nigeria, they're doing better than us. We are here, almost every day we talk about this and then ban us. Why are we not producing security for all these things? This is our country. We have almost everything. Nobody will come outside the country and then to do all those things for us. Please, I appeal to all Nigerians, the leadership of this country, and people who are controlling power in the country. Let them sit up to the responsibilities, to the task ahead of us. We generate a lot of what we talk about. We generate 27,000. But what using power? What we are using within the country is below 7,000. This is really bad for a population of about 200 million. Industries cannot even prevail. As I speak to you, we don't have any industry in Makurdi, in Benue State, that runs up because of power failure. People who cannot come in. The foreign investors cannot come in because we don't have this. Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much.
Could easily have been speaking for millions of Nigerians.
I think he has spoken it.
Oh, sure.
But let's go back to the investment. Now, people have said maybe the way out is to recapitalize or inject funds. But again, some Nigerians say, look, the discourse came at some point in time, and they got money, and there was little or no improvement. So are we going to throw money at it again?
Thank you, Cyril. I think this is the position of Transmission Company of Nigeria. Because if we continue to expand the grid as we are doing, and we don't have commensurate investment in the distribution network, it means that our investment is not sustainable. I also want to tell you that contrary to what the last caller has said, that there's no change. There's a significant improvement that has been recorded under this government. Don't forget that transmission company was the weakest link in the value chain. Today, we have not solved all our problems, but we are even driving some of the changes that are in the sector. We have also raised investment. We have changed the procurement system under which all those containers are left in the port. And under this government, we made 800 containers stranded in the port, Cyril. Some of these containers have been there for over 15 years. Some of them have been auctioned. We have removed 775 containers out of the 800 containers as at last week. So it's not that nothing has happened. We have also expanded the grid through the use of TCN staff. So, TCN staff are the best engineers you have in the country. Sure. Very patriotic. We use them to expand the network. There's no region that we have not put more than 5 power transformers across the region in the last 2 years. And this was done under this government. And we have raised $1.661 billion in expanding the grid. We have changed the procurement process in such a way that weak companies and companies that have been failing cannot win contract here. But the question is that if you look at generation also, Engineer Ozemina, as a grid administrator, we are the one that are stopping generators from coming to the grid anyhow. What is the reason? The reason is because that what we have, we cannot take. Electricity, you cannot store it. You can only generate what you can consume. Sure. You understand? Yeah. So you cannot store it. So as at now, the biggest link that we have problem with is distribution network. And we don't have plan. So generators that are coming in, you don't allow them to be coming in so that you have stranded generation. Because every generation that we have that we are not consuming, we are paying for it. Yeah. So why should we continue to expand the generation when you don't have, you are not taking? So we are saying that government actually, from transmission point of view, government was supposed to be a passive player in the sector. That is why the directors of the distribution companies, only one is a government with 40%, while the discourse have 6 directors. But we are saying no. Since we have this issue, there's no more issue of government being a seat on the side. Government have to bring their own 40% out of this $4.3 billion that we have raised, that we have estimated, and the owners of the distribution company should come with this money also. We are also saying there has to be a regulatory certainty under which you are going to have the tariff that are going to be in place to support this investment. We are also saying, just like transmission, we have achieved competitive procurement of our service. Everything we are buying TCN, you will see it on the newspaper. We don't buy things under the table. So everybody, every player, consistent with the directive of ECOWAS that was approved December 2018, all value chain must do competitive procurement of their services, so that you don't raise this capital and somebody will come and be awarding contract under the table and finish the money. Now, Cyril, whether we like it or not, we have to pay for the services to ensure that things improve.
All right.
But we have to be serious, and we cannot be playing games.
Right. We'll return to that. Let's get this other call from Zaria. Maitama calling in from Zaria. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
It's unfortunate we are talking about power in Nigeria. I am a young person, but I have not known power for all my life. That we don't have jobs. There is nothing good going on in this country. Most especially about power. There is nothing to talk about power. They are just saying us here because we have been disputed so many times. So many times. The other time the was about this was in power, but there is not power. This is nothing at all. We don't even point fingers. We are just why don't the power is talking of getting jobs somewhere in factory somewhere that we are. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. We don't know who to blame.
All right.
I hope this government are seeing this thing so that they will go back to the drawing board and solve this problem once and for all. It's unfortunate up till now. We don't even know who to blame. We don't know where to point fingers at. Ever since we were small boys, we used to hear this thing over and over again. Everybody that comes will disappoint us.
All right.
It's unfortunate.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Maitama. Well, I could make out some of what he's just said there. The frustration says he's a young man who has not experienced steady power supply so far. There are so many young people who tell you they can't remember when they last had 247 power supply. But at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll consider what steps to take to stabilize the system and hope for, well, 24 megawatts. Right. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Pure, serene, exotic, rare wildlife, big and small, in their natural habitats. Great tourism destinations right here with us. Nigerian National Parks. 7 parks across Nigeria. Cross River, Kainji Lake, Chad Basin, Old Oyo, Gashaka Gumti, Kamuku, and Okomu National Parks, as well as the park's headquarters in Abuja, all in a state of nature. Ideal for picnics, family outings, and sightseeing. We have excellent accommodation, great cuisine, and conference facilities. Visit us today and get memories for life. Contact us at Nigerian National Park Service, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Expressway, Airport Road, Abuja. Phone 081-1290-7916 or email nigeriaparks_headquarters@yahoo.com. Nigerian National Parks Service, a rare national treasure.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. in our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Not to worry, the discussion had been going on in the studio behind the scenes. Everyone is so passionate about power supply, and, well, understandably so. But we need to say, moving forward from the position we are in, how do we stabilize the system? And there's been talk of recapitalizing the entire system and bringing in people who are competent to play in here. What should happen to this discourse? But Engineer Dogo, give us an insight into...
Cyril, what is happening to Nigeria is nothing new. Virtually all the countries that privatized their power sectors exhibited similar scenarios, similar problems, similar challenges. Particularly, let me begin with the advent. In UK, around 1994, when they privatized their power sector, they didn't have infrastructure problems, but their problem was how to manage the commercial entities and operationability of their systems. Advently, they had several distribution companies. Within a spectrum of 7 months, the system got overheated. Why? Either by negligence, the new owners were only interested in the profiteering and how to increase tariff. And then the masses were bearing the brunt. So at the end of John Major's government, Tony Blair came in and said, okay, what is the differential money you need? They mentioned a couple of billions of pounds. He said, okay, I will raise the money. 40% of the government value, you, the new owners, go and raise your own 60%. Within 1 week, when government placed that money, it didn't just throw it out like we threw out 701 billion and said, okay, we are forgiving all your sins. What they did, they looked into the utility clause, and Tony Blair said, look, British Gas is functioning effectively and delivering gas successfully. And that was a government company, commercially well managed. Take this augmentation cost into British Gas and use British Gas now to get the balance. Within 1 week, there were mergers of distribution company. The management costs ran down to practically less than just 10%. And nobody was talking of tariff increment. The collection rates were more efficient. The commercialization became stable. The commercial gaps were completely eradicated, at least to near zero. Until today, the distribution companies in UK are doing fundamentally very right. The economy has been stabilized, and the generation has been stabilized. The transmission is still stabilized and fully upgraded to smart grids. It also happened in India. In 1998, when they privatized, their case was worse than us. Tariff collections drastically ran down to zero, almost. So what government did, it raised its own counterpart of the funds and asked the private investors and the distributors, bring your own counterpart. When none of them could show forth, they forfeited their positions, and then the Indian government used the local government and the state government and injected more funds up to 80%. As of today, only one private company sustains 20%, and that is Tata. In the whole India electricity, within a spectrum of 10 years, from 35, 45 megawatts, India today is producing, consuming, and sustaining over 350 megawatts of electricity. So, I can go on. California, in America, by 2000, privatized the distribution networks and the GenCos and the transmission. The new owners of the discos capitalized that unless there is tariff increment, they were not going to put 1 penny. Do you know that the electricity of California dragged down to almost collapse in 2002? That was what forced out and chased out the governor then, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger won. When he won, the first thing he did was to raise and recapitalize the distribution network. On that capitalization, hands changed in management. And up to today, California's electricity is stabilized. Steady growth now came back, and the economy got a direction. So what stopped us from saying, government, raise this your 40%. Do not give them this chance again to just receive it as a bonus gift or Christmas gift. Tell the new owners, go and bring your 60% counterpart. If they don't bring it, surely they have to give way.
Okay, let's take this call coming in from Sokoto. Usman calling in from Sokoto, I suppose. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. You see, it's unfortunate that we have neglected this power sector for a very, very long time. And I can, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, go, yeah.
No, yeah. And you see, this power sector is one of the most, I think, one of the most profitable businesses I can think of everywhere in the world. And unfortunate enough, our so-called operators and leaders, who has led us to where we are today, is very sympathetic. You see, just like what the doctor said, it's a very simple solution to all these power problems we have. If only the government can take an emergency situation in this power sector and say, look, all state governments should contribute. Since what the MD is saying, what the MD of GCA is saying is distribution problem, now let every state government have a stake in it, so that whatever happens on that, the distribution sector, the government which have a stake will protect every property being invested in such. You know, just like what the consultant said, if you go to I was in California before. I was born in California and I grew up in California. And unfortunately, when I came to my country, I feel so bad. It's a country that I so love so much. But the effort the government is putting in power sector, honestly speaking, it's just like you're putting a water into a basket and it's draining. Because if every sector of government will come into play. Say, look, we have this problem to distribution. Okay, each state government will contribute. This is what we're going to contribute to fix in this distribution. This is what we're going to put to fix in the generation. This is what we're going to put to fix in the transmission. In each and every stages of power generation. Honestly speaking, we couldn't have been coming here talking about power project, power this, power that. What happened to all the money we've been collecting from what the government has collected from the state government? You know, it's also a part of business. Look, if the state government can come in and invest into power projects, they can also earn profit from it. And any government, use any profit from this investment, will not want this thing to be jeopardized. It's as easy as that. But because everything goes as well in Nigeria, and nobody cares. Because if you put your 1 naira, you protect your 1 naira. If you put your 5 naira, you protect your 5 naira. But since this money doesn't belong to them, they don't care. If government can come and say, okay, look, each government will invest all this money are going to Abuja to go and collect. Power project, power profit is part of the way we collect in Abuja. Everybody protect power property. But since nobody cares whether it's okay or it's not okay. I mean, the Mandela is there today. From here, and you know what is happening with Mandela today. There's nothing wrong about Mandela. And the state government and the state government are just spending money because the federal government is also spending money because there's nobody to protect this property. The major problem we have in this country is maintenance. Because people know if we don't have light, we're going to buy generator, we're going to buy fuel, and people know if we don't have light, we're going to cost for maintenance and stuff like that. So the basic thing is let government invest in this. Forget about the private sector. There are failures that are failures.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Usman from Sokoto. Well, taking it from where he left MD says, well, the private sector, something has to be done to make the companies live up to expectation. Now, you've talked about raising government's share of the recapitalization funds and the independent, the discos bring in their own share. So what happens if those discos cannot meet up this recapitalization that you propose?
Sir, recapitalization is not about you raising the money by yourself. Recapitalization means that if you put the environment right and you put the regulatory regime in place and ensure that the discourse of the book, Hashim made mention that the books are impaired. The reality of the matter is that there are some part of the tariff of the discourse that actually they cannot collect. You know that the exchange rate for the discourse and the exchange rate for TCN are the same. That of the generator are different. So these are impairing the books of the discourse. So we should reset the books of the discourse so that we don't have this impairment that will lead to the fact that them having problem in raising money. Now, what we are also saying that regulatory certainty has to be there, including tariff, that will drive the investment. Now, the thinking among people is that if new money comes in, it will increase the tariff. Of course, if anybody that has money, he will require the money to be paid. But if money comes in, a good money, like the money we are expecting that if government is going to raise its shares, it should also use those money that is in discussion with the World Bank and the AFD, French Development Agency. So use this money and capitalize the discourse, the government side. Let owners of the discourse also bring this kind of money that will have at least 20 years 20 years repayment period and at least 5 years monitoring period. The kind of money that actually come into the distribution as a part of privatization are not money that are meant for this kind of investment. Most of the money that came through Nigerian banks are very expensive and they are short term. So they are not ideal for this kind of investment. So we should raise the kind of money that are ideal for this kind of investment. Now look at what will happen, Cyril. You will have that, yes, repaying this loan will increase the tariff. But if money comes in, it will reduce the aggregate technical and commercial loss. The aggregate technical and commercial loss is part of the tariff. So you will see a reduction on this side, and then you will see increase in that side. On the whole, there's likelihood that even if there's going to be addition, it's going to be plus or minus. So and there are so many things we can do. Like, for example, why do we need to even have the kind of tariff that we have, or PSN? It's the same tariff that we have. This R1, R2, okay, is this not the one we are using before? Yes. Now, why do we need to have this? Why don't we liberalize the tariff? Allow the discourse to come up with their tariff and then look at what they know their customers. So these are the kind of things we need to do.
But the thing, if that happened, what about the fears of people paying so much? Right now, people are saying they're paying so much more for what they're not getting. And if they just allow the free hand to raise tariffs, and anyhow, where would that lead us?
I don't think it's allowing a free hand. Right now, the cost of darkness in Nigeria is more unbearable than even having the electricity available. So, the issue of tariff doesn't come in. If Nigerians get electricity 24 times 7 today, if the discourse we are living up to expectation, if I wake up from my street, going down to your street at Wuse 2, and I see PHCN has rolled out capacity engineers, strengthening the lines, cutting the trees, just doing the minimal threshold of things, replacing the feeders, then I will say I will say the distribution companies are serious. And every Nigerian's hope will arise that at least I'm expecting 24 hours electricity, 7 days in a week, 56 weeks in a year. Then Nigerians are willing and able to pay because this electricity will help move their economy forward. Let me put it this way, Cyril. For every 1 megawatt, for every $1 million appropriately, efficiently put into the electricity market or electricity sector development, the cumulative economic benefit is 12 times. Now, if the distribution companies are practically doing nothing except excuses, except crying for tariff increment, I have not seen where effort is being done that a transformer in my yard breaks down. After 2 months, no distribution company member has come to fix it. Then where is my hope? And why then do you even have the right to request for tariff increment?
So it's been said, Hashim, it's been said that they're not collecting what they ought to collect, but yet they're collecting much more in other places, more than they ought to. Now, how do you stabilize this system?
The thing is, they are not remitting
what
back to the value chain.
Right.
What they ought to remit. It's like there is a withhold of funds by the collectors.
Okay, so.
And the only way to get that across is maybe through forensic auditing. We are talking on recapitalization.
Okay.
We need to know what happened at the time they bought the assets.
My God. How much were you collected?
They bought it in dollars.
Right.
They took loans in dollars. But the tariff is in naira.
Okay.
If at the time they took the loan, maybe the exchange rate is 200 naira, for example, and they are paying the banks that they took the loan for to buy the asset, maybe 200 million naira monthly. However, there was no tariff increase. They are now supposed to pay 400 million naira monthly. That in itself has put them in a disadvantaged position on their capitalization.
All right.
Here, there has to be a way out. Either the CBN help them to renegotiate the loan and domicile it back to naira at an appropriate rate, so that they will be freed with the burden of exchange forex shock. Same thing with the gas pricing. While the gas that is used from the generators is in dollars, the tariff is in naira. There is risk that has not been properly apportioned across the value chain. These issues, as I said, needs to be looked at holistically. It's not enough to sit down and say the licensees are not doing enough. No matter the power, quantum of power you generate, if the naira portion of the value chain is not addressed well, we will not get it right. Either the tariff is not enough or the performance of the licenses is not enough.
Yes.
You owe in court, maybe on their monitoring and enforcement, there is, for example, a regulatory capture that the regulator cannot enforce its own orders They cannot put on penalties. Cumbersome dispute resolution mechanism. For example, you are giving a crazy bill, you don't know where to go and correct it. And it will take you 6 months to be following the licensee to correct it. And if you pay for a PPM meter, they will be very delighted to transfer the debt without reconciliation to your new PPM meter that you must pay before you charge the meter. These are regulatory issues that the regulator has to wake up on monitoring and compliance and enforcement of their own rules. The issue is beyond the market itself. We need to operationalize contracts. Discos have not dropped, many of them have not dropped their 3 months LC. So they can run away with market settlement issues without repercussions. Nobody will go to the bank and maybe garnish their account. That is why the government, I think twice, pumped in money to salvage the sector.
And so,
the first one to pay legacy debt, the second one, 710 billion naira, has gone down the drain. It's a sinking hole. There is another one that is just about to, it's been the $1 billion investment that we have to do gap analysis on the interface point and on the disco network itself to find out where are we supposed to invest. It's not just saying I need money. It has to be calculated investment.
Yeah, I think we've really discussed distribution extensively. But I think one of us had said before that if one of the three entities is weak, the rest will not function too. So I want to look at the whole thing holistically, right from generation to transmission to distribution. There was a position paper I wrote in 2006 during President Yar'Adua's government, where I clearly stated the problems in power supply in Nigeria. I titled that document Status of Power Supply in Nigeria, position paper, which government really was very much interested in because I stated clearly the problems, the opportunities too, and what we need to do. Government was interested in it. It was still being discussed in presidency and Ministry of Power before the president died then. And then the permanent secretary also, left service. And what I wrote in that paper holds good even today, even though it may need some modification because passage of time, So what I tried to say in that paper is, in generation, for instance, we need to diversify mix. There's plenty of gas, yes, we know. But the gas is located in one place. So we need to either get gas ring around the country or we build other modes of power supply. And I advocated very strongly that coal power generation should be encouraged and backed on. I know the world is talking so much about retiring coal power plants because of ozone layer depletion.
Exactly. So
yeah, but those countries, West America, Asia, talking about it, all started with coal power plant and stabilized with coal power plant before they now are trying to retire them to go into renewable energy. Nigeria cannot really go far without big power plants, which you can simply get from coal, then hydros anyway. Unfortunately, we don't have so much of big rivers that can give us outside the probably 5. So we still need to consider building of coal power plants in Nigeria. South Africa, we are always talking of 45,000 megawatts and all that. Most of South Africa's plants are coal-powered power plants. One power plant, I've forgotten the name of that power plant, generates 850 megawatts, a unit times 6, just one power plant. Cool. So we need to go into it. When we stabilize like other countries, then we can talk of maybe retiring them and going into renewable energy. You know, so that's for power generation anyway. For the grids, I think we should also encourage isolated grids. National grid is quite okay, it's already in place. But I think we should encourage states, even private people, to build power plants, even if they're not so big, within states, and use the network, depending on the quantum of power from the power plant, use the local network distribution to distribute it, or go into the grid if they have excess generation. We need to really have isolated grids, not just one. The United States is talking about it's isolated grid. There's nothing like national grid. Many other countries that way. And that is why they are stable. You know, very importantly too, like now, I'm happy the MD of NTCN is here. Power system collapse. You know, there's a way we can manage it for now. You know, when we were still in NEPA, what we did was to split the grid into two. It's just a matter of opening necessary breakers and isolators. Split the grid into two. So that if there's failure of one side, the other one will still be healthy, and you can power the collapsed side from the one that is healthy. That is the only way to do it. Because each time the whole grid collapses, because we don't have a plant, you know, what we call a black start machines and equipment, it takes a long time for the power plants to come back. But if one side is healthy while the other collapses, you transfer power, close those breakers and isolators, and send power, and they can restart. You know, NEC too, to me, should do more work than it is doing. I think probably they are not very much equipped in terms of manpower to do the proper regulation. Because I believe that, you know, it's not just a matter of regulating, they also need to, NEMSA is there, they say they are set of standards. In my opinion, NEC should have been in charge of those things. Because once you have an overlap in function, there's always problem. You know, so NEC needs to do a lot of work. Part of which is ensuring that the staff who are in these facilities are trained, competent. Okay. Because even with all the money, if the staff are not good, the money will go down the drain too.
All right.
You know?
So let's come back to the MD, moving forward and improving transmission and fixing the issues that we've raised.
Thank you, Tari. Thank you, Cyril. You know, as I said, on the transmission side, we have taken the bull by the horn. As I said, we know that for a long time there was no significant investment in the network. So that is why we are rehabilitating the entire network, meaning most of the substations across the country, we are rehabilitating them. And we are also not doing that without looking into account the quality of power. Like my former boss said, if you look at the grid that we are running, somebody who said, why was the system not collapse when we are running a grid without a spinning reserve? Exactly. We have to have a spinning reserve for you to have a grid.
The spinning reserve you talk about in layman's terms, so that people can understand actually what it is.
Yes. Maybe I can explain it to you.
Yeah, let the easy.
For the system to be stable, there must be some idle generation. Right. In a power plant, for instance, that has maybe 6 units, you could leave one out. Even if it's available, quite all right, but you leave it out in case there is need. A collapse somewhere.
More or less a redundancy.
Exactly.
Not only so.
It collapses somewhere, then use it to make up. And most of the time too, you know, the gas plants, that's what they are very good for. Anyway, as spinning reserves. Generally, about 20% of your generation should be on spinning reserve. But of course, like you said, we don't even have enough, not to talk of a spinning reserve.
No, let me put it this way about this spinning reserve. It's not necessarily that you must have one generator on standby. The idea here is that you have to run your generators in a certain regime that they should have capacity to hold a threshold. For instance, Igbin is one of the formidable power plants. One unit has 250 megawatts. What we do, these generators have capacity to run under 75% capacity load, leaving the remaining 25 for quick ramming. Because even if you say you are leaving one generator, by the time it takes you to bring it in, the grid will have collapsed. So you run these generators not directly at optimal, but leave some clearances of their capacity at 25%, so that when the grid is catapulting for stability, they can quickly ram up, because they are already running under a threshold regime. But to do that, it comes at a cost, because you are running the generators under some functional braking or governing systems. So these are all mechanisms that has to be put to place.
So spinning means that the turbine is on load, but it's not sending out power.
Not sending out 100% of its power.
That is the means of spinning.
That's what
So let's continue.
The spinning reserve is actually what is what we call online generation. The generation is ready, but the generation is not generating.
Exactly.
So it's supposed to be a generator. It's not every generator that can do spinning reserve. It has to be a generator that can come up within a period of 10 seconds. So if a generator cannot come very fast, even if it is online, that is not ideal for spinning reserve. And that's why when we advertise for spinning reserve, even though we need at least 10% of our generation as a spinning reserve, which is about 400 megawatt, unfortunately what we can get, I mean in terms of generators that are ideal for that kind of work, is only 260 megawatt. And that's why we're waiting for the approval to deploy the spinning reserve. So with the level of frequency control that we have achieved, if we have the spinning reserve, even though it's not enough, it's 260, we believe that the grid will be more stable until such time when we are going to put in advert again to buy more spinning reserve. I want to tell you, Cyril, we are building the transmission network in such a way that everywhere there is a radial, we are making it a loop. That's what we are doing. And every line that we have that has problem, we are fixing it. That is why if you look at on the grid now, there are several inadequacies on the network. Look at the line from Equator Benin to Ugwaji to Jos. You know the design, there's a design problem. There's not enough reactor on that line. We have 3 reactors that we have bought now. They have been installed along that line. We have discovered on that line there is no transposition. We are now fixing, we are putting transposition. We discovered that from Ugwaji to Jos, the OPGW is not commissioned. We have called the contractor to come and do it. So this is what we are doing across the value chain. But as I said, all this that we are doing, we have to have commensurate investment on the side of distribution. For generation, Cyril, I want to tell you that if you look at what we are doing with Zingeru is coming on board. Dadinkowa, the problem between the problem that the contractor, the owner has been resolved. We believe that in the next maybe 1 year, we'll be able to have a generation in Dadinkowa. That means we'll have a voltage stability around that side because the generator will help us. Sure. Look at the Buiwa solar IPP. It's going to be a reality. We're going to have 1,000 megawatt. In fact, the European Union gave us a grant of 25 million euro as part of the evacuation that we're going to do on that line. And the contract is under evaluation as we speak with you. We are putting the 330 kV double cycle line from Katsina to Daura, Buiwa, Jogana, Jogana to Kura. So that's what we are doing. But there's something I want to correct. Engineer Dogo, I don't think there is poverty. I mean, I don't think there's a relationship between poverty and payment of electricity.
At all.
Now, let me tell you. Look at Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is buying electricity from Cote d'Ivoire at the rate of about between 21 cents and 27 cents per kilowatt hour. That's what they're buying. And the efficiency of Burkina Faso utility is between 98% and 100%. As the last board meeting we did of WAP, Burkina Faso was not owing Cote d'Ivoire a single cent. That's why they want to come and buy electricity in Nigeria, which they believe is going to be cheaper. Now, what is the difference between Burkina Faso and us? The only difference between us and Burkina Faso is that, and I went there to go and see it, is that no house is connected without meter. Now, look at the problem, Cyril. The issue to say that a poor man cannot pay for electricity is not correct. Because if somebody is earning 50,000 naira, and he went and used electricity disproportionately, and in that month he paid 30,000 as electricity. Now, next month he will switch the electricity in a way that he will not consume that kind of electricity. So what we are saying is that give him the electricity stable and give him the option on when to switch it on and switch it off, and be transparent with him. That's what we are saying. But this game that we have all vast areas that have no meter. Then you give them energy the time you like. Then you give them maybe 5 hours, and you build them as if you have given them 24 hours. It's not reasonable.
No, Nigerians,
Cyril, I want to confirm to you.
When it comes to when there's good quality,
no, I want to
Nigerians
confirm
are
to you,
quite
Cyril.
flamboyant.
My driver who has no AC in his house pays more electricity than me.
Yeah.
Because he's on a fixed charge in his house. So we have to solve this game where we have disenfranchised our people. They're angry with us. They refuse to pay because they're angry with us. They beat us when we go. And a situation where we should be transparent. Give these people, measure them, and pay them, and let them pay.
Okay, let's hear from you.
Well, what is talking on capacity to pay for electricity? Our problem in the country is about discipline. You know, you are not even in the books of the disco. You climb, you hook the line, and start using the electricity. The disco itself try to lump up the bills to the paying customers. There is also the issue of, for example, demand-side management. The discos should enforce where the energy goes to at a particular time. They should also encourage, through the tariff system, industries working at the time that the electricity consumption is low, demand. Industries can work in the night. They can change their shift system.
Okay.
Such
just go ahead.
Such that you will not, the consumption and the generation will go together like a flat rate, not peaks in the morning, another peak in the night or evening. Then you will see that everything has just collapsed to maybe the consumption is around 2,000 megawatts.
Yeah.
If the industries are allowed to come in at that time, and the tariff should encourage them to do that.
All right, on a final note, this is probably not a question, just an observation. Popular opinion.
Yes.
Just a short while ago, MD, you said some country was thinking of buying power from Nigeria because it probably would be cheaper. Popular opinion is that, yes, Nigeria is selling power to countries outside and they can't get enough at home. Does it make sense?
Thank you, Cyril. You know, I'm the grid administrator, so I can tell you what the grid contains and what the grid does not have. As we speak with you now, at any point in time, we have more than 2,000 megawatts that we are not consuming, as at now. And Cyril, I also want to tell you that between us and our neighboring countries, and that is why we don't have option than to fix electricity actually. Between us and neighboring countries, if you are talking about conventional generation, we have comparative advantage than any other country in West Africa. Meaning we can generate electricity cheaper than any country in West Africa. So actually, if we fix the transmission network, we can actually sell electricity to other countries and make money here and create jobs here. That is a fact. But look at the problem. The problem is that we need to ensure that there is some level of transparency in what we do. We need to ensure that our people are treated better. And I also want to tell you, Cyril, if you look at us and our neighbors, like Ghana, like Cote d'Ivoire, and like Ghana, like all these Nigeria and all of those countries, do you know that the only thing that we have as comparative advantage against them, we have signed the partnership agreement now. Now, it means that anybody who wants to build a company in Nigeria will look at whether he should build in Ghana and bring it here, or build in Cote d'Ivoire, in Benin, or in Ghana. Now, the only two things we have comparative advantage against our neighbor is only electricity and population. But population is not even an advantage since you can put it in Nigeria and come here. So we have to fix electricity for the economy to work. That is a fact. If you are talking of ease of doing business, for the next 100 years, we cannot compete with Ghana. Why? Because Ghana is a unitary state. If you want to start a company in Ogun State, for example, you have to satisfy the federal requirement and satisfy the state requirement. If you want to do that kind of same company in Kumasi, you don't need any federal requirement, state requirement. When you satisfy one requirement, you are okay. Now, if you are talking about multiple taxation, the same it applies. You will have any form of taxation by state, you will have by local government, and you have by the federal. If you go to all those countries that surround us, Niger, all of them, they're all unitary states.
Okay.
So we can't. So we have to fix the electricity.
As I always say on this program, no one program can take care of all the issues. But so far, we've been able to raise some issues and receive answers to them. At some other point in time, we'll take a second look at the power supply chain, and hopefully we'll be able to ask you to come again and tell us just how well TCN has done now. You've mentioned a lot of projects and what you've done, so we'll be keeping a watch, and maybe we'll ask you to come again.
Thank you very much.
For now, we want to thank all of you for coming. Thank you so much to Hashim Ibrahim Bakwari, former Executive Director of Technical Services of the Just Distribution Company. We thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Well, Dr. Vincent Dogo, it's always a delight to listen to you.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you.
And we say big thanks to Ozoemena Okechukwu Peter, former Executive Director, Generation of NEPA.
Thank you, Cyril.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Nigerians, for listening to us.
All right. And again, thank you to Usman Gur Mohammed, the MD CEO of TCN and the Chairman of the West African Power Pool. Thanks for being on this.
Thank you very much.
And thank you too for being part of it. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.
It has been an age-long struggle between being a man to your woman and being the man to your guys. And some people will say you can tell a lot about a man from the way he treats the women in his life. Well, grab a glass, it's time for At the Bar. And I am your host, Ray Adeta, aka Remarkable, and today is going to be a very exciting episode. I'm sure we're going to have a few laughs and also some few facts also. And you know the tradition of the show, I'm always never alone. I have with me ever dependable, ever always there. Actually, ever always there for me.
That's why I'm the man.
Mr. Calico!
I'm the man. What's happening, man? I like, you don't know I like that quote. Guys, you guys are set for a good time always. As you know, we like to give you all that stuff, so stick around. But wait, which are you? The guy who sticks for the guys or the one who does for the women? Which one do you do?
You guys will find out after the quick flash break, and when we get back, we'll talk about more on this topic. So you guys find out the topic too. So see you guys later.
Okay.
All right, so you asked me a question.
Yeah, I did.
Let me keep that aside first.
Answer
We're
my
gonna talk
question.
about
Really, don't.
what was the question?
I'm asking which one are you, the man to your woman or?
You also want to find me question. Those are fees.
Hafiz.
So you say something.
Okay. So which one are you now? Seriously, tell me. You don't have this one. Which one are you? A guy to your woman or a guy to your guys? Which one are you?
Can I be both? Can I be both? It's not a crap.
Put down. Pick a side, bro. Pick a side.
I'm
You can't be
both. I find a balance.
Well, I'll pick a side for you.
I'll pick a side for you.
You're a guy to your guys. You're not a guy to your woman. So that's a side.
All right. So today's topic, we're talking about the front seat
rule. Yeah.
It's sort of a figuratively speaking. It's not just. It's not like it's not literal. It's figurative. So we'll expatiate more. So you guys just hang around while we collect our drink from a piece.
I feel the man.
Right.
Thanks a bunch.
And then we'll talk about the topic. So, Kali.
Yeah, one.
Front seat rule. What comes to mind?
Yeah, it's like, to me, front seat rule is always, you know, if you've got a car, right? Yeah, there's always that rule that you have that if I'm driving, I'm going to pick up my chick and my guy is sitting right in front of my car. My guy should go back.
That's your own rule.
That's my own rule. He should go back so the chick can sit in front.
Now, let's say in TLC they call it scrub.
Yeah.
The scrub is the guy that's always in the front.
Yeah.
And then next to the guy, you always feel like you're also the designated DJ because you're the one that controls the sound. And then suddenly I'm going to pick one chick and then my guy, because the guy goes sit up about what? You know? So it's actually quite sensitive. As fun as it is, quite sensitive. Some people might take offense to that, like, now I forgot a woman. Go tell me your guy. Sit down for my brother and girl, you understand?
Boys take offense to it.
I say testimony in Timbara Boss. Timbara Boss.